We break down shifting public sentiment with big data. Welcome to Big Data Talk Time. Reporter Min Ji-sook, we've now passed the halfway point of the campaign. Let's start with where the candidates have been focusing their efforts.
We've labeled this as the politics of routes. Over the past 2 weeks, we've compared the areas visited by the candidates across 4 regions. First, candidate Lee Jae-myung showed the most diverse routes, even visiting Jeju. Kim Moon-soo, who needs to win over the centrist voters, focused 51% of his efforts on the capital region. Candidate Lee Jun-seok, meanwhile, concentrated more on the Yeongnam region than Kim, securing 10% support.
As we saw earlier in the report, the strategic points for each candidate are quite different.
Indeed, when analyzing the official campaign schedules, it is apparent that candidate Lee Jae-myung has made a notable emphasis on the keyword square, which remarkably showed up 18 times, certainly more than any of his political rivals. Candidate Kim Moon-soo had the highest frequency of visits to traditional markets, while candidate Lee Jun-seok visited 8 universities.
As the campaign nears its end, support bases tend to consolidate. However, as we've seen in recent polls, there seem to be some differing trends.
There's growing talk of the so-called shy conservatives now beginning to move. If we combine the support rates of conservative candidates, they currently add up to 46%, topping Lee Jae-myung. What we noticed is that the proportion of undecided respondents dropped from 12% last week to 8% this week. This suggests that a number of voters who were likely conservative-leaning but had withheld their opinions for various reasons have begun to express their support for the conservative bloc following recent developments.
Got it. What drove changes in the sentiment index?
Undoubtedly, the biggest event this week was the return of former President Yoon Suk-yeol to the spotlight. In the case of candidate Kim Moon-soo, we observed a spike in negative data alongside keywords like election fraud and Yoon Suk-yeol film. However, the sentiment index shifted noticeably the very next day. Positive sentiment began to rise, while negative reactions subsided once again. It was the day Kim Moon-soo's wife, Yeongnam, began her first official activities. Keywords like spouse, daycare center, and mobilization featured prominently. In contrast, candidate Lee Jae-myung faced family-related risks, which prompted a positive public response.
Negative influences from President Yoon Suk-yeol hit Kim Moon-soo, yet benefited Lee Jae-myung.
Well, not exactly. On the same day, negative sentiment also appeared. We also saw a noticeable rise for candidate Lee Jae-myung, with frequent mentions of keywords like election fraud, rebellion, and retribution. After focusing on policy pledges, candidate Lee Jae-myung once again invoked the rebellion and retribution frame, which appears to have triggered a rise in negative public sentiment.
Appreciate your report.